You cannot afford to miss a single moment of the next hour. Get ready to have your ideas about sexuality, love, and relationships blown wide open. It's time to get educated, entertained, and enlightened, as well as sexually empowered. You have now tuned into the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show. Now, here's your host, Tanya Diamond.
Hello, everybody. I am excited as usual, but even excited, I am having these amazing feelings of gratitude for my life. I have to tell you that having a mission to eradicate sexual ignorance in the world puts me in some amazing positions, like this last weekend. Not those kind of positions, Gary. Well, maybe those kind of positions too, but more than that, last weekend I did a couples intimacy weekend up on the Sunshine Coast, and I have to tell you that, you know, I get paid for this, to sit at a beautiful resort with beautiful people and teach them how to love each other better. And the testimonials that are coming in from them and just the looks on their faces at the end of this workshop when a woman looked at me and said, I've fallen in love with my husband all over again. Thank you. How do I thank you for that? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm in a yurt on a beach at a beautiful resort, and I get paid for this. My life is amazing. And I have to thank all of you out there for making it so amazing, because you're out there listening to me, you're out there emailing me, you're out there calling me from all over the world and asking me questions and getting information and helping me with this mission to eradicate sexual ignorance. And so I am in gratitude for all of you out there that are making this happen. Thank you so very much. I have an amazing man here with me today. And, of course, you know I love men, so it's always some favorite things between Gary and Scott here. It's quite a titillating event. And Scott Paul is joining me in the studio today. Say hi, Scott.
Hi, Scott.
And we're not sure what we're going to talk about, but Scott has an interesting thing that he does for a living, and I think he might live in gratitude of his life too. What do you think?
I do live that way.
You do? You enjoy it as well?
It's the best job I've ever had.
Well, there you go. See? And, you know, we start having more and more people around us that have these amazing jobs. It shows in our lives. I was thinking that I have met all these people recently that are, running around having spiritual experiences at workshops and all trying to live from their heart up without kicking in the rest of their body. And I have to tell you that living from your heart up, transcending, so to speak, has no passion and no fire. There's no commitment to it. I think they've got to move some energy from other parts of their body. What do you think about that?
Indeed.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Definitely, because otherwise it's just kind of this vapid little airy-fairy experience.
And it's just good to live your life to the fullest.
Right.
I haven't always, but I am at the moment.
Well, there you go. So you understand how that works.
Indeed.
I think that really just from the bottom up, we have entire bodies, you know, and cutting them off from the waist down is not really living in full human potential. It's just kind of, vapid. Not very exciting. So if you're out there and you're wondering what in the world, I've been taking years and years of spiritual training, I'm doing all of this stuff, and I still can't seem to bring it, what's missing, you need to ask yourself, are all your teachers afraid to talk about sex? Are all your teachers afraid to teach you how to bring your sexual energy up through your body and use it? I find that fascinating, that all these relationship workshops and all these people talking about relationships, and they're squeamish about sex. You're not squeamish about sex.
Not now, but I have been in the past.
Yes?
But the business I'm in has taught me to open up.
Oh, my gosh. Don't we want to know what business he's in? Doesn't it make you wonder, did I actually bring a male escort on? No.
Damn.
So tell us what you do, Scott. Lay it on us.
I design high-end and artistic, kinky BDSM toys.
Now, for those listeners out there that are vanilla, can you say what BDSM is?
It has a few meanings. It covers the territory of bondage discipline, sadomasochism.
All right. Ooh, that's kind of scary, isn't it?
It can be.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be.
Put on a blindfold, it's not as scary.
If you can't see what's coming, it's less scary?
For a moment.
For a moment. So there are a lot of people out there that are just going to go, what's this going to be about? What is going on? And yet there are, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are playing in this arena, right?
Oh, That's a small number.
That's a small number. So
your neighbors are doing it right now.
Hundreds of thousands of people. So BDSM or bondage play or sensation play even?
Sure, that's another term for it.
So sensation play could just be something like you could actually just be using feathers.
Feathers, I mean, everybody does it. Everybody spanks their partner playfully or aggressively. Everybody ties somebody up to the bedpost with silk scarves.
Or at least thinks about it.
Right. Fair enough. But
right.
Most people try it.
Have tried something like that.
Yes, most have.
Or ice cubes or...
Good example, feathers, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, so everything from the very mild kind of, I've heard about this kind of stuff, let's play with it, to real extreme.
To very extreme.
I mean, like blood play.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everybody, and in Tantra, there's 7 levels of touch. And number 1 is, barely touching, and number 7 draws blood. And
we go to number 8.
You guys go to 8. Oh, no. Woo! And there you go. Okay. So I find that interesting that, most people don't play with some of those higher numbers in, or they're afraid to in conventional, shall we say, sex, or and then for some reason they're considered kinky if they move beyond that. After you're getting 4s and 5s, all of a sudden it's not conventional sex. What are your thoughts?
It's kinky, and people are often afraid to introduce the subject to their partner because they're afraid of rejection and embarrassment. And what if you throw that out and you don't get good feedback? Then it's out there forever. And what do you do?
It's a little hard to take it back.
Have
you had that experience?
Sure. I think many people have.
Right. How did you approach it?
Oh, years ago. It doesn't happen to me anymore.
Well, no, because you're the king of kink.
Right, king of kink. But it's happened in the past, and typically I moved on and found what I wanted.
So do you have any suggestions for how to bring this up in a way that's, less scary to somebody maybe, or how to feel it out? I mean, what was your best success? Or did you just blur it out and let it fall where it may?
Well, it's easy to say now, but just take a chance and put it out there, because if it's important to you and you're not getting it, it's a dead-end road anyway, so you may as well put it out there. You have little to lose, and at least it opens up the conversation. And if you cannot work it out, then maybe it's time to
move on,
readdress your situation.
Right. Because for some people, this isn't just a wow, I'd kind of like to try this. For some people, it's definitely the way that they want to have sex most of the time.
Absolutely, all the time.
Right. Well, it falls
different levels.
Right, and
but,
I think
some degree of sensation or bondage, discipline play, or it's just not sex.
Okay. And, I know, obviously, there's so many different configurations of relationships in that realm as there are in the monogamous vanilla realm, as in everything else, that it's all about negotiation.
Absolutely.
Communication.
Absolutely. And the key word that's used constantly is consensual.
Consensual. Yeah. Thank you. That's a big one to get out. Somebody asked me once, is it okay if I just grab my date and tie him up? And I'm like, not without talking to him about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not cool.
There has to be negotiation. It's kind of a funny, it's a game. It's a dance. You talk about it. You agree to do what you don't want to do.
You agree to do what you don't want to do. Well, I guess that's a good way of putting it. I always had thought I was very vanilla and conservative, and yet apparently, I've done some, like playing, like you're saying, not knowing that there was any words for it, but just playing with tying somebody up or that type of thing.
Sure.
And I was trying to remember. I don't think I ever had a problem saying, hey, I'd like to tie you up. What do you think about it?
Right. It's one thing I love about what's generally called the BDSM community is that people communicate, and that's why a lot of the relationships are so healthy, because people are not afraid to talk about what they're feeling, what they want to do, what they want to, and no matter how crazy, and they know their partner won't diss on them for it.
Right. I guess, yeah. I mean, if you bring it up, I work with couples quite frequently that one of the partners will want to, or have I guess the wording would be have a kink, right? Even though I'm not sure what really kinky is, but they'll have, it can
be anything,
right? I know. So it's kind of a weird. I've had people say, "Are you kinky?" And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
What's kinky to me? It might be kinky to you, but I'll have clients call me up, and I work with couples where one of them has this definite drive towards something that's not considered conservative, whether it's wearing his wife's clothes or wanting to be tied up or some type of thing like that. And, I mean, spend years in a relationship afraid to say it. And just years of being afraid. And then when finally they do say it, being ridiculed or the person being horrified. Now, I can imagine if you'd spent...
sometimes pleasantly surprised.
Well, that's the good news.
And they go,
right?
Really?
Oh, wow. Hey, that might be fun.
I've been thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
It's worth the chance.
Right. Well, it's always worth the chance because, you got to live in integrity.
And it's the reason there's a thriving market in professional...
Wait, people do this professionally?
Oh, yes.
Professional dominatrixes.
You've heard the term.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they tell me I know a lot about sex.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah,
and it's a wonderful service for people that cannot, for whatever reason, fear or situation, cannot get what they need at home.
And it's not sex.
No.
Not traditional sex that we're thinking about,
No.
not intercourse with a
No
prostitute.
penetration, no touching, no intimacy. That's hard. Why I wouldn't quite put it that way. It's extremely intimate.
Right.
But no sex in
Right.
the traditional sense.
Right. That's pretty fascinating then for a lot of people would think, wow, and you're going in and having somebody do these things that you want somebody to do to you, but you can't ask for at home. Or maybe the person can't provide. Because certainly I've worked with couples as well that the person may be open to, but it's just not their thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then what do you do?
And they can be supportive.
Right. You can be supportive and say, okay, so you have what would they term that, your play partner or your professional that you go to?
I can think of couples just off the top of my head, good friends of mine who are not compatible in the kink area, but support the other person to go and pursue that with other partners because it's important to him or her.
Right. And they have their boundaries and they've communicated about what's...
Well said.
Yeah.
And that keeps them together. It keeps their relationship solid and it makes them stronger in their relationship.
So that's what's fascinating to me is that the communication in these, I'm going to call them offshoots of quote-unquote normal sex. In the offshoots of normal sex, the communication to me has always seemed so much better and so much more authentic.
Absolutely.
Than a lot of the...
by multiple degrees.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because when you're going into that realm of anything outside the box of monogamy, if you have the monogamy box and you're in it, apparently it's not okay for you to say, wow, I've always thought about doing this because that shakes that little box, the stability of that box. My thought about relationships is always that I've wanted to be in a open relationship, not as far as polyamory necessarily, but an open relationship that means it's always evolving to be open to speak your truth.
And that's a wonderful thing, but most people...
Yeah, that's scary.
Are scared to do it for the reason I said earlier. They're terrified of being rejected or humiliated.
Right.
Although that's what a lot of people want.
Well, then, yeah. Well, the people that want to be humiliated, that's a whole...
So it works for them. You can say it over and over and over again.
That's a whole different, yeah. You what? I can't believe you want me to do that. That's right. I like that. Yeah. So, well, that would work, too. But the fear surrounding, even just sex, plain sex, like I said earlier when I was talking about relationship, having some of these people that I invite for guests, I said, do you want to be a guest on my show? And there's this one woman I'm thinking of who she talks about relationship. That's her thing. She wrote a book about relationship. And yet her publicist will say to me, ooh, I noticed that you talk a lot about sex and sexual energy on your show. And, that's really not the direction that she wants to go. How do you have a relationship without that component, I'm wondering? The 40 million sexless couples in the United States. That's
there you
how.
Go. Yeah.
We need to talk about sex, and that's partly why I do this show, Tantra, Sex, Love, and Intimacy, because I want to get sex out on the table, all the different components of it. So did you know that you were kinky always?
Yes.
Yeah?
I haven't always lived it, but I've always known it since I was 18 or younger.
18 or younger. And it's really hard, I would imagine, then, how do people, you don't have anybody to talk to about it,
well,
really, right?
Nowadays, in those days.
Yeah, he's kind of older.
I'm an old geezer.
He's not an old geezer, he's just older.
But turned 18 in the mid-'70s, and it was like you had to really, really want and hunt for it to find it. Now, these young people is just around them everywhere, every day. It's just everywhere. They're just so...
Sex and the kink world.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
BDSM, the kink world, fetish attire, all that. It's just everywhere. Back in the day, it was definitely underground.
Right. And so that makes it a little bit,
I think it's good.
Even harder. Well, I think it's good that everything's out there.
Yeah, I think it's healthy.
Yeah. I know that, there are people that say, and I've met people I have to say, I've worked with couples in both realms. I've worked with vanilla couples. I've worked with non-vanilla couples. And I have to, once again, go back to the communication is so much better in the other couples. It doesn't mean the relationships always work, but it means that the communication is so important. When you're bearing your soul to somebody and saying, hey, this kind of does it for me. I don't know if it really does it for me, because unless you try it, it might just be one of those fantasy things, right?
It draws people together.
To have that depth of communication and support each other.
Yeah.
Because for some people, it's just a fantasy. I mean, they have a fantasy about tying people up, but if they really do it, it doesn't do it for them.
Exactly.
And so
reality is not always as good as fantasy.
Frequently, yes. Frequently that is true.
There's some exceptions.
Right. Frequently that's true. So for people out there that are thinking to themselves, I've always had this knowledge since I was really young. What does that feel like? I mean, how did you know? For somebody that's, because there might be some young person listening or younger person or older person listening to this that can't tell whether or not that's something that definitely drives them or something that doesn't, but that's just some taboo fantasy.
Well, for me, when I knew it was because if I went to a magazine store, I liked the Playboy magazines just fine. But what really got me going was these these kind of seedy magazines called things like True Detective and stuff, and the covers would be these lurid color drawings of women in distress.
Okay. So it was the women in distress
ripped
thing.
Clothing and tied up and evil,
maniacal things.
Yeah, happening to them. And
right.
Those tweaked me.
Right.
Way more than your typical Playboy centerfold.
So there's a nude woman. Okay, fine. Here's a woman that's not nude, but definitely distressed. That's
what got me going.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and did you feel like, oh my gosh, I should go see somebody, or did you feel okay with it?
I wasn't sure. There was no one to talk to. I buried it.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you got over that. That's a good thing. So if you're wondering, you're listening to this show and you're thinking, I've kind of always had a bent in that direction, and I encourage you, there's people definitely to talk to these days if something's going on. I mean, there's a lot of forums.
Oh, everywhere. And they're so easy to find.
Right. So there's forums to go speak with. You can always contact me if you're just confused about what's going on. And, we are talking about consensual experiences here. And I want to keep saying that over and over again, because it's not okay to go on a date and just grab somebody and, do whatever you want to do, like tie them up or hurt them or anything like that. It's just completely not okay.
And it never has been.
Yeah, right. And
those basic rules of socializing haven't changed.
Right. And I know some people are confused and they think that, that's how this works. And it completely is not like that. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of negotiation that goes into what are the limits and boundaries. There's words.
Limits. You just said hard limit's a good word. Someone who says, okay, you can do that, but not that.
Right.
It involves trust. You trust somebody. Once they tie you up, you trust them that they're going to follow those rules and not break that vow.
Well, you don't play with them ever again if they do, right?
Yeah, and you shouldn't play with them in the first place if you don't trust them enough to follow the rules.
Wow, that's interesting. Then how do you find somebody to trust? Or how do you, because, most people don't even trust their vanilla partners.
Communication. I don't know.
People have to trust you, though. You're in the position of people having to trust you.
I am.
What makes you trustworthy? He's like, what?
Yeah. He said,
Sorry.
I don't know.
He's blushing now.
I just think you just judge the person you're with. How do you judge them to know whether, if in vanilla sex, how do you judge them to know after going out dancing and having drinks to go up to the apartment?
I know. Well, people take risks
sense.
all the time that way.
Yeah.
I think about some of the stuff I've done in my life and I'm like, oh my God, can't believe I'm still here.
Right.
Because we think we have they're nice. I always like that. Well, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah. Reputation's part of it. You can join. There's a wonderful organization in Seattle, the Seattle Sex Positive Community Center. I may not have said that correctly.
Center for Sex Positive Culture.
Thank you. That's
You're welcome.
it. Now, there's a group that you can join where you can meet people and talk to them in a safe setting and get to know them and determine whether or not they're safe. And you can say, hey, what about her? What about him? You know, people gossip just like anywhere else.
True enough.
So the bad players get outed very quickly.
Well, I think, now see, that's something that because it's kind of tribal, there's a lot of communication going on. And in that community, there's no shame. You speak your truth. Then, they're not going to put up with people that are doing things that aren't okay.
And it's just, there's no bad people. I wouldn't say no. There's very few bad people in that community. That community, I don't know, it just draws good people.
And that's funny to say for, people that like to hurt each other. Hurt other people. It's like
they tend to be very intelligent and educated and balanced, and or people that aren't like that don't tend to pursue such an obscure niche.
Well, and certainly they may not join a community.
Right.
That would be the thing. So maybe they're doing something and they're more isolated.
Exactly.
And that's a little bit more, maybe that's a more telling sign that you should ponder. Yeah. If you're thinking, wow, this is an interesting conversation, and wow, yes, there's a community, and here in Seattle, there's a center, and I actually am going to talk to Elena is the director of that, and I'm talking to her I think the end of next month. So we'll talk more about how the center works. But there's a place you can go, and they have an orientation, and you can sit and talk, and you can kind of observe. I mean, they have situations where you can watch what's happening and talk to some people and find out, is this really for you or not? You can go single, you can go as a couple. Yeah,
it's a wonderful, extremely safe facility. Single women can go very comfortable there. It's a nice mix of men and women. It's no alcohol, no drugs. It's 18 and over because there's no alcohol. It's a nonprofit. Right.
And they do a lot of education there. And like I said,
tremendous amount.
Talk about them. And I know of them because I've done a lot of teaching there as well. I use their facility to teach. So BDSM, lots of facets to it. And that whole titillation factor that people have when they talk about things that are at the back of the store. And we're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to come back and talk about what's at the back of the sex store. And that's where Scott's stuff hangs out. So we'll talk more about that in just a moment.
Is your sex life non-existent? Do sexual dysfunctions leave you soft? Is internet porn getting more than you are? Or are you paying more attention to porn than your partner? Have you tried talk therapy and it got you nowhere? You are not alone. You can be freed from sexual shame, guilt, and dissatisfaction. A visit to the Tantra teacher is in order. Call now and mention you heard the Tantra teacher on the radio and get a very special offer. Stop waiting for a miracle and call right now. 206-276-2735. Phone consultations or in person will get you the information you need to be successful in your love life. But you have to call now. 206-276-2735. Stop making excuses. Call the Tantra teacher. 206-276-2735.
Contact Talk Radio.
It's on the internet.
It's consciousness in action.
Information.
It's your connection to empowering information.
It's what matters to you.
It's on the internet.
Contact Talk Radio.
Listen live.
Join in on the online chat.
Contact Talk Radio.
We're making a difference.
And leading the way at contacttalkradio.com.
Are you one of the 40 million sexless couples in the U.S.? Are you wondering why having sex leaves you feeling lonely? Are you suffering from the myths of sexual dysfunction? Do you know in your heart that there has to be more than what you're currently getting out of making love? to rid yourself of sexual ignorance, get more out of your lovemaking, and find out more about spiritual sexual connection, then you need to check out www.thetantrateacher.com to receive your free copy of the ebook called Secrets of the Tantra Teacher. Don't suffer another minute without the sexual loving and ecstatic bliss you were born to receive. Get to www.thetantrateacher.com right now. That's www.thetantrateacher.com.
Now is your chance to be part of the show. Call 877-230-3062. Call in with your questions or thoughts and talk with the host and their guest. Again, that number is 877-230-3062.
Hi, everybody. We're back. I'm here talking with Scott Paul, who was telling me at the break that he does not want to be, he doesn't consider himself an expert in this field. I reminded him, of course, he's living this lifestyle, so who else makes him an expert than kind of being in that?
I don't have any letters after my name.
He has no, he's disqualified himself. He is not a professional dom.
Street smarts.
He has street smarts. And, yeah, so anyways, Scott, you know, you came into this lifestyle and then found out, I mean, because I'm going to tag you into what you do for a living here. So you came into this lifestyle, we're playing in this lifestyle, and found an absolute dismal array of equipment out there, or what? I mean,
well, I wouldn't go that far, but like many dominant men, and I suppose all doms, but in particular men, I think we like
men and their toys.
Yeah, men and their toys. I mean, whatever you're into, you know, we like to make toys, so it's just natural to start creating your own toys and making your own. We don't always want to spend the money on the expensive ones in the shop, which is now how I make my living.
Well, and you were saying that like in any like sporting thing or anything that we do,
whatever you're into. If you're into mountain climbing, you have all these tricked out high-tech toys. If you're a sailor, they're even worse. They have all these gizmos and gadgets. Well, if your passion is sex and kink, you like to have the same kind of thing.
So the toys there, and you had a construction background.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I've done. Yeah, I used to buy and sell houses, and yeah,
right.
I've always been creative and hands-on.
Yeah, hands-on in more ways than one. And so it was a natural progression then that you were looking around, and I mean, kind of, is there like that moment in time when you realized I'm going to make these things?
Sort of. I just had always made my own toys because I enjoyed it, and I just 7 years ago or so, I just hit this point where I just needed a change of pace, and I had some free time, little money in the bank, a dangerous combination.
Free time and money in the bank.
And
what will I do?
Decided to build a very high-tech, very cool cage.
A cage?
Yes.
Oh, people put people in cages.
Indeed.
My, oh my. And a high-tech cage, so...
Different from what typically out there is what we would call your medieval-looking cages, black, wrought iron, they're cool. I wanted something sleek, something that would look good in a...
Modernistic in your home.
Modernistic in a home or an office.
So you could display your cage in the corner there or something, and...
Exactly.
And people would go,
yeah.
Is that the closet?
Yeah. Or put a big piece of glass on top of it and have it serve as your dining room table.
Oh, yeah. Oh, because you can make a small... Oh, somebody has to crouch down in a cage or a tall one. Okay.
All different size cages come... But that's kind of what got me started. It was sort of a fun project, and it just exploded because the finished product, people liked it.
So you did this project in your home or whatever, and how did people get to know about it?
Friends would see it because I had kinky friends coming over, and they were like, "Oh, make me one."
Ah, okay. So it started with the cage.
Mm-hmm. Started with the cage. That's why I'm often known as Cage Builder.
Cage Builder. That's the moniker.
Yeah, and then it was like, okay, that was fun, and then I just started. Then I did a few other things. I started messing around with some kind of high-tech bondage gear that, instead of opposite of rope, using interconnecting metal tubes to create rigid restraint. So was that kind of a new thing out, or not new, but I just took a different twist on it. I got really into modular things that could break down and be packed away, hidden away. And go back to the cage, I designed a collapsible cage that could be quickly disassembled with no special tools and tucked away under the bed when the in-laws call and they're 10 minutes away.
Quick!
And then I just kind of took that line of thinking into a modular and designed this system of rigid restraint spreader bars. I know it's a scary word. And
Spreader bars. We're talking about a scary subject for a lot of people here.
Right.
So half the people that are listening to this are scared. The other half are titillated.
Right.
And it's both kind of the same feeling. Scared and titillated. Like, ooh, what are they talking about?
And I just sort of made a conscious decision, partly just because it's always the way I've been, just to do something very high quality and very artistic and try to not compete with the mass market from China and Mexico of just stamped out products, which work, and not really try to compete. Some people do like one product, super beautiful, like amazingly high quality, and they just do one, and they're very expensive. And I tried to fit this middle ground of a product line of many different items that are all high quality, all artistically styled, and we make everything right here in Seattle. Nothing's imported, and try to fit sort of that niche. I'm kind of, people call me the Nordstroms of kink.
The Nordstroms of kink.
My product is affordable, but it's higher end. You have to think twice about it.
ScottPaulDesigns.com. ScottPaulDesigns.com if you're wondering, hey, you want to hop on there and see what it is that we're actually talking about. So for those people that don't understand what kind of restraint, what does that mean? So, I mean, collars.
Yeah, that's just
cuffs.
Cuffs that are, that's just one part. I have many different areas.
And don't you have like the world's best blindfold?
I do have the world's best blindfold. My good friend forced me to start calling it that. I was too humble to call it that. Why is it the world's best blindfold? Well, it wasn't his his point was, he said to me finally, he goes, if you're not going to call it that, show me a better one. And I couldn't do it. And
so
its main features are it's nice. It's the number one feature is nice is that it's cupped so that there's no pressure against your eyes, and you can blink your eyes freely and not feel anything. Most blindfolds are pushing against the eyes.
Right.
So that makes it very, very nice for a lot of reasons.
But I thought we were supposed to be uncomfortable.
No, not always.
No, okay. So the blindfold can be comfortable. It's what you're doing to the rest of the body that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, or it can be, in fact, to get into that, mental discomfort, because it's a subtle little thing that I discovered kind of by accident after I designed this blindfold, wanting people to be able to blink their eyes and be comfortable, is that when you have complete blackness, but yet your eyes are open, your brain is slightly more concerned why we can't see.
Oh, I guess it makes sense, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, eyes are open. It's like, Yeah. And I'm looking around, and I can't see anything.
And that's one aspect of it. Then the other, I just do little touches, like the lining is neoprene, which can be cleaned. The liner can be removed, so you can wash it or put in a new one.
Isn't that nice?
Little details.
Well, you do take a lot of attention to detail on your stuff.
I'm known for it. I'm proud of it. My product is like obsessively detailed, you might say.
Well, but I mean, that makes, I think, if I'm going to use something, I like to feel special about it. Whether I'm buying clothes or whatever it is, that's something that you should gain pleasure with. Feel good about it, and know it's good quality and it's going to last, and that it's not going to break. You got good value for the price you paid, and it's hard because you have to, because many of my products, the spankers and floggers and such, they're badly abused. They don't just sit on a shelf. So they're made. Yeah, they're not made to just look pretty. No, and people are trying to break them. So I'm wondering. So you started coming up with this. You started doing this. What's the testing? I mean, what's the testing like? Do you're hanging off. You hang something off the ceiling and hang on it for a while. I do a lot of testing. Rigid testing. A lot of the testing I do myself. A lot of it, we spoke earlier of professional dames. Mm-hmm. Many are my friends, and I ask them to test the products for me because I want them to work. I'm not necessarily uninvolved, and they'll take it and use it severely and point out any flaws or things they don't like. Well, that's good. And that's been a good arrangement I've had. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's true. Put it in the hands of professionals that are using it a lot. And exactly. They say, well, that didn't work so well or whatever. Exactly. So, and you're loving your career. Yeah. It's a great job. Good work if you can find it. Now, is it a little bit, you meet somebody in a social situation and they say, hey, Scott, so what do you do? It's a little awkward sometimes. I've kind of gotten used to it. And I've come to learn that nobody cares anymore. I used to be shy about it, but really, at least here in Seattle, it's like I get two reactions, either just kind of a casual, oh, okay, or really, Right. So the okay are those the people that are telling you, I don't want to hear any more?
Yeah, but
of
they're
that?
not. They don't seem shocked or offended. They just let it lay.
Well, what would you say? So if I said, hey, Scott, what do you do?
I have different answers depending on who you are in the situation. I get no pleasure from shocking people.
Yeah, because you are a very elegant man in the sense that, this is not something, you're not wandering around. He's not standing here in a full leather, regalia, looking all severe and.
No, in fact, I'm known for not, dressing like wearing linen to leather parties.
Right. What do we tell you? The gentleman sadist?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Called the gentleman sadist many times.
Yeah. So it is true that, we might be meeting people every single day, every day, all around us.
Well, I do. And I belong to a network, independent business networking group here in Seattle. And people are there who are from all walks of the vanilla world. And they say, so what do you do for a living? And if I don't want to scare them, I'll say I make furniture, which is kind of a white lie. Cages could be called furniture.
Yeah, if you put a glass top on them. Yeah.
It's a stretch, but
right.
I could kind of fudge it and get a feel for how they,
Right.
And sometimes you just go with your instincts, and I just say, I design kinky sex toys.
And I'm sure that's got to raise eyebrows anyway.
Absolutely.
Whether or not they're into it, it's always kind of like, it's not. I mean, I wander around and people say, what do you do for a living? And I say, I'm a sexual intimacy expert. And it's kind of like, oh, really? Yeah. And I can get the same reaction from people like, well, I can't believe you'd say that out loud.
Well, like I was saying earlier, this day and age, and people are aware, even if they're not into it, they're aware of it. I mean, even mainstream fashion has bondage gear. It's everywhere. It's in GQ. It's in Vogue. I mean, it's just around. So it's nobody's really shocked anymore. And
they're just wondering when they should break it out or not. But it's still, I mean, I would say it still causes people a lot of grief. I mean, a lot of grief. You went through lots of years of grief.
I wouldn't call it grief, but
discomfort.
I had to put it on hold.
Yeah.
I just sort of say just put it back in the closet for a few years, and and a lot of people have, and people even do that, for reasons of family, children, whatever. People that have been in lifestyle for decades will just put it on hold for a few years because their situation dictates that. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm hoping they don't. No, it's like one of those things where I'm hoping not everybody's putting sex on. People are putting sex on the back burner of their lives too, just hooking, plain old vanilla intimacy.
Right.
Excuse me. And I find that incredibly sad.
Yeah.
And how to connect in a deeper way, of course, that's what I'm all about teaching everybody. What, I know you have some of your stuff at Wild at Heart, right?
Indeed.
And so Wild at Heart is an adult toy store here in Seattle and Ballard, run by two wonderful women. In fact, I'm going to have Vicki on as a guest at one point as well. I shot a DVD there, trip to the adult toy store for people that have always wanted to go, but were too afraid to go. Now they can just buy a DVD and sit at home.
It really is Seattle's best toy store.
Yeah, it's a great place. And so interestingly enough, though, like this stuff usually goes to the back. When you walk into most toy stores, they try to not shock you. So they put like little lotions and stuff up front, the safe zone.
Right.
You can wander around the little lotions.
Goes from lotions to condoms to dildos to kink.
Right. And so your stuff's in the back.
Way in the back.
And
mine's the scariest.
And yours is the scariest stuff. Why is it scary?
Well, some of it's pretty extreme. Not all of it. I do things like blindfolds and cuffs and nice collars and little tickly toys. But some is fairly out there. My best seller and what I'm most well known for is the Humiliator Gag.
Wow, that makes one wonder. The Humiliator Gag.
I'm proud. It's the first item that I've been knocked off on someone. It's good enough that I've been copied.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a feather in my cap.
I think so. Yeah, when people start copying your stuff, that means it's got to be good. And so now at this particular toy store, somebody would, you can either just walk back there yourself and kind of poke around, or you can ask.
Exactly.
And say, so if you were going to start out and do this for the first time, are there ways to ease into it?
Well, sure. I mean, you probably already have. You've already tied up your partner with a silk scarf.
What? Oh, not me. He wasn't talking about me.
You've already done playful over-the-knee spanking. You've already done it. And it's just taking it a step further and buying a paddle because your hand gets tired.
or the hairbrush.
Yeah,
It's
we're buying a
more
blindfold because it adds to the sensuality of the moment. And
I liked what you were saying when you said, and just the toys, just the whole aspect of men and their toys. I've seen men pull up into the center there with these rolling bags.
oh yeah, like luggage. I know, it's hilarious, and not just men. I mean, and this whole world goes every imaginable way. There's submissive men, dominant men, submissive women, dominant women, gay men, women, every possible combination.
Every possible
you can think
scenario.
of.
And then the person that switches back and forth because they
Exactly.
can't make up their mind what they like.
Yeah, and a lot of
What
people
they don't.
switch. Yeah, so it's one great thing. There's no rules. There's rules there's rules you follow about consensuality, but then once that's settled, then it's a lot of freedom to express yourself.
Do you actually, are these things written down? When you're
Sure.
negotiating things?
You can be. It doesn't have to be, but yeah, there's dozens of lists on the internet that you
Really?
can download. You can have like hundreds of boxes that you check off. Like they'll say yes, no, maybe, and just go through hundreds of kinks, and you can mark
Wow.
your feeling. I know that's
So
one.
would you
option.
like microchip yourself with those particular?
Right.
they
It's
want
not
these-
my particular style, but
So it can be that. I would think that probably some of the biggest things you'd need to know, even if you're just playing around at home, is do the people have any like claustrophobia issues?
absolutely. It's called it's called landmines.
Landmines. Okay.
Yeah. Often you get doing edgy stuff can dredge up memories that you didn't know were there.
Ah. Huh. So what happens if you've got somebody tied up and they freak? What?
That's where the safe word comes in. You have a safe word that wouldn't be a word that you would use to be erotic. Like a safe word would never be ouch or please don't. A typical safe word is red. It's not a word you would use to be dirty or like
Right.
dirty talk or to be sexy.
Safe word.
Safe word. So the typical safe words are red. Red means stop now, stop immediately. Whatever you're doing, stop. If I'm tied up, untie me. No debate, no discussion now. Yellow means I'm getting a little bit uncomfortable, cool it.
Okay. Yeah.
And those are two classic safe words. People create their own, but it's a word, if you're having a cramp or something, a leg cramp or you're uncomfortable, you can say a safe word and to let them know that you're not dirty talking.
Right.
If you say, no, don't do that or stop it, that's not good.
Right. Because some people play on that.
Exactly. So
Right.
you'd have to know which is which.
And then, of course, common sense dictates that if obviously the person is completely freaking out and maybe they can't say their safe word,
Yeah.
it's better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly.
Because you can always start again later.
Exactly. At some point, it's common sense.
Right.
And trust your partner, and you know that it's not right. And,
Well, and I know there's classes that you can take, too, like if you start to get serious about it. Because there's some protocols for tying up. There's places you don't tie people up. You can damage them.
Oh, yeah. And there's places where you don't smack somebody with a paddle or a
like
flogger.
kidneys
the kidneys
or something like that.
Oh, absolutely. There's thousands of books and there's classes. In Seattle, we're lucky we have classes. There's probably a class every week somewhere that you can take to get informed.
And that's a good thing to do. Because some of the stuff just playing around is fine. Some of the stuff can get a little bit bodily harmful.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's I've got a cough. Hang on a second. Sorry, I've still got this cough, everybody. And so then there's the whole, there's like protocols around keys. I mean, if you're padlocking somebody up, what do you do with the key?
Yeah, well, the person's responsible to have that key quickly available. And if you're tying someone with rope, the person doing the tying up is responsible to have a rope cutting scissors or shears right there. Serious rope tops,
Right.
bondage people carry
On their tool belt.
They have a specialty. It's like a super strong scissors that will cut through rope and a little leather sheath that it rides in like a knife on your belt.
Right. So this is kind of cool. If you're really into gadgets,
You're into
like
gadgets.
Cool gadgets, so you
Don't
can have
waste
like,
your time sailing. Get kinky.
Don't forget that mountain climbing and sailing stuff, guys. Get kinky.
There's gadgets galore.
Gadgets galore. And you don't make any. You don't have any electric stuff. You don't do the electric stuff yourself.
Well, I don't make it.
You don't make electric stuff. Yeah, you just concentrate on a fairly not a huge array of
No, I
products.
have like 50 products. I shy away from things that's the market. Like I don't do dildos, or in the industry we call them insertables. It's like there's enough already.
Right. Yeah. How much fancier do they need to be?
Exactly. And they're all made offshore. I can't compete with those. I pick and choose items that I don't have a ton of competition from China or Mexico. Nothing wrong with that. It's just I can't compete with that. And dildos are the classic example.
Right.
There's 50,000 already. There's nothing I can come up with that's better.
Unless it had your name across it.
Yeah, that could happen someday. Right. Branding, that's a whole new arena that I'm just starting to touch on.
Right.
And, in electrical play, that kind of thing. There's people that do that. They're experts at it. They make a beautiful products, and I don't need to compete with that.
That's awesome. And you are going to, you've gotten so busy that basically you need to do something like expand or your ceiling is popped.
I'm bumping the ceiling every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you...
I have help, but I'm getting close to having to take it up a notch.
Right. And are you going to, or do you see yourself then making more product, or or different types of things?
I would enjoy spending less time doing literally hands-on assembly. And
I know, because right now, Briss, if you get something from him, his hands have touched it.
Yeah, I have helped. Believe me, anything that any Scott Paul product you buy, I've touched it.
That adds to it, let me tell you.
And some I do all of it, like my pinwheel collection, which I'm well known for. Those I build from scratch because I've never taught anyone to do it, and it's getting out of control. So yeah, and I lost track of your question.
That you're going to you're in the need to expand and go in a different direction. I was wondering if you're going to add more products or what you see yourself doing.
What I see myself doing is design work. That's what I should be doing. Just design work. It's what I'm good at.
And have somebody else doing
and
assembly.
not be spending my time doing the hands-on. But that comes like any small business. It's one step at a time.
Right. Do you have a dream about what other things you want to design, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. He has a plethora in his mind.
I do. There's no lack of ideas. It's just time to create them, and it takes a long time. And
yeah. So you have a very good knowledge. Obviously, you're very good knowledge of assembly and construction.
I do.
Using different materials, different mediums to create things.
And my decades of just residential construction trained me well how to build toys that don't fall apart when you're smacking them against somebody.
Right. And so, here, get a bigger hammer. So here I'm thinking all these construction people out of work right now, if only they had known that their expertise could have gone into doing something as exciting as this, which is a lot more fun probably in the long run.
Absolutely.
At least for you. You're not going back to the other way.
And it takes a lot of discipline. I mean, and that comes
running
from,
a business does, yeah.
I've been self-employed my whole life. It takes a lot of discipline to get up every day and get to work and do it when no one's telling you to. And years of losing money. It took me years and years of making nothing, living on nothing to get over the hump.
Right. Well, we're glad you certainly went that way, because not everybody's story is so prosperous or living your dream.
Yeah.
And so you would say that you're living your dream.
Yeah. I'm looking at one right here.
Wait, we're sitting across from each other. What did he just say? How nice is that? Thank you very much. And I'm hoping that, people have been listening to this and not freaking out too badly if it's really past what I've got a lot of spiritual people that listen to this, and
it's okay. It's just fun.
No, and I understand that, but what was the most fascinated by is once again, I'm going to say the communication. Mm-hmm. Back to the fundamental place that I'll have a couple that has been married for 15 years, and they come in to see me, and as we're talking, as I'm helping them discuss things, all of a sudden one of them will say something like, "Oh, yeah, and I really liked X, Y, and Z." And the other looks and goes, "What? I thought you didn't like that." "Oh, no, I've always liked that, but you stopped doing it. I thought you didn't like it." So for 15 years, the favorite thing that they both liked, they haven't done.
Can I plug a book on here?
Yeah, please.
A really great book I recommend to friends all the time who are thinking about getting into this or curious came out about 10 years ago. It's Different Loving. I don't remember the authors. I think it's like 3 female PhDs, and you can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Wild at Heart. It's right on the shelf, and it's just a really good book. A lot of it is just stories of people talking about how they discovered their kinkiness.
Right.
It's a good way. I often recommend it to people. Maybe there's other better books.
Different Loving?
It's just one I happen to know about that I think is a good way for people to understand these feelings, whether they have them or not. And
yeah, well, and I mean, and even just maybe reading something like that inspires you to actually like have communication in your regular relationship. I just am.
Yeah, put that book on next to your bed. It'll
You'll have some type of communication anyway. Like what? What? But the name of the game in Tantra for me is really about living in authenticity and living in the present moment. And I think until we can understand that to be truly intimate with another human being, we have to bare our souls, and whatever that looks like. We can't get past, when we have shame and fear and guilt and worry and all of that, we're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to get intimate with another human being. I'm not advocating that everybody go out and, get your kink on unless you want to. I know that there's many ways to have relationships, big, beautiful, different ways to have relationships. Tantra is about getting more subtle. And you can do that in any realm that you go, whether it's the kink world or the vanilla world or whatever world. I'd really like you today with your partner or yourself to contemplate your authenticity and what you really want in your sex life and in your intimate life without the fear or the judgment of wondering what other people are thinking about it. Contemplate it. Just be open to going, all right. Maybe I do like to be tied up, and I've been afraid to tell my partner that. And maybe there's a way you can tell him that. Maybe your partner likes to tie you up, but you don't like it, and you're not saying something. And in that case, you need to be talking as well.
Right.
This is not just about...
it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
But you can still be aware of it and be supportive of it.
Sure. And even if you have a relationship where all of a sudden, yes, that is part of your relationship, but then you've decided you don't want it to be part of your relationship anymore. You need to speak up, because the worst thing in the world is just doing, whether it's not doing something or doing something that you don't want to do and that you're not into.
Yeah. As I kind of mentioned earlier, what will happen, couples will have been together for 20 years and one of them will discover this. It'll come out. It's been buried and they can't bury it any longer. And that's hard to discuss.
Right.
Yeah.
There are people that can help you. And I'm one of them. If you're looking at this situation and going, wow, okay, I've heard your show now and I really need to have a talk with my spouse. I'm not sure how to do it. There's ways to go about it. We're down to about 3 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to say other than, of course, tell us your website again?
Well, thank you. Yeah, my website is scottpauldesigns.com. And just like to thank Tanya for having me on the show. And it's been fun.
Entertaining and enlightening.
Being an expert for an hour.
Well, you're an expert in your life and things that have gone on with you, and you probably have a lot more experience than most people that are listening to us right now in this realm.
It's probably true, although I'm surprised sometimes I meet young people with so much more experience than me, and I'm like, wow, where did you get so far so fast?
They didn't have the fear in the beginning, right? They just went out there.
Right.
So if any fear is holding you back, you need to change that. And all of this can be enhanced with breath and education, breath being the number one thing I talk about. With just a few minutes to go, I want to say thank you very much, of course. And I love this man. He's just very elegant in everything he does. And his toys and his products are beautiful. So I say go check him out if that's something you're interested in. Wild at Heart is a great place to go explore it safely. And the women there are happy to talk to you about it, too. So you can go solo or take your partner. I am on fire with getting my coaching products going. Next week, I'm launching my men's dating etiquette program, and actually we're looking for 3 men to take out myself and 2 of my coaches as we do our first experimental dating assessment. So if you're a man in Seattle and you're thinking, wait, that's me. Yeah, hands are going up everywhere. Whoa!
I'm raising my hand.
He's got his hand up. It's like, let me know. Contact me at Tanja, Tanja, at learningtantra.com. Get to my website, learningtantra.com, and get signed up because we have a million things going on now that I have 6 assistants. Things are rocking and rolling, and you don't want to miss any of it. Happy to have had you all here today, and look forward to speaking with you next week. And bye. We're out.
You have been listening to the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show with your host, Tanya Diamond. Don't miss next week's show at Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, visit our website at www.tanyadiamond.com That's TANJA for more information on workshops and classes.